Our attention to foreign affairs now with Cormac Smith, a former advisor to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry. A very, very good morning to you, Cormac.
Julia, good morning to you. It's lovely to see you again.
Thank you. Well, I wish we were in lovelier circumstances and Donald Trump had woken up to the threat of Russia the way he's woken up to the threat of Hamas and Iran and even China. But he still, for some reason, has this blind spot when it comes to Vladimir Putin. There was a plan for more talks between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Not that perhaps we would have been that optimistic about what would come of it, but it turns out that Russia, doesn't want to go ahead anymore. There's no point because they don't accept basic ceasefire terms, which I still think are unacceptable to Ukraine. But even the fixing the lines of control where they are right now. Putin says he wants control of even more territory than he's even conquered already before he'll even talk about a ceasefire. Where are we at?
Look, Julia, it's important, and I share your frustration, but it's important to know that Russia has not indicated in any way that they want peace. There was a meeting the other day between Marco Rubio and Sergei Lavrov, where Lavrov made very, very clear that Russia's aims our demands were still maximalist. Now, something that people need to understand is this 25% of the Donetsk Oblast, which Putin does not hold. Ukraine still holds it, and Putin says that he wants that as part of any peace negotiation. He is saying that there must be a peace agreement in place before there is a ceasefire. This goes against all norms of peace negotiation. But what's important to recognize, that 25% of Donetsk is heavily fortified. It's what Alexander Stubb is, a good friend of Trump's, by the way. They play golf together. He's the Prime Minister of Finland. Sorry, he's the president of Finland. Yeah. He recently described this 25% heavily fortified by Ukraine as the highway to Kyiv. Yeah. So Putin wants that because it is of strategically critical importance. There's something else in this that I've noticed. This, I think, is a sign of Zelensky finding a way to stand up to Trump in the most in the softest and most non-confrontational ways. We had leaks from the White House that talked about Trump shouting, swearing, and throwing maps off the table during the meeting on Friday. Zelensky clearly. So are we back to the February meeting?
Yes.
No, because Zelensky clearly didn't rise to the bait. He came out, his first pressers were very, very positive. He talked about, yes, we haven't got the missiles yet, the Tomahawks, but it's still on the table. Yeah. So I think, we also heard from that meeting that Witkoff, had pressured Zelensky very, very heavily to accept Putin's terms. These are terms, giving up that 25% of Donetsk, these are terms Ukraine can never accept.
It's basically conceding the right, and also, especially given that we haven't got the proper guarantees that they've been asking for, this basically would be giving up the whole of Ukraine to Putin. Here's the thing, it did look like Putin was willing to talk when there was the possibility, casually mentioned by Donald Trump, we may well give these long-range missiles to Ukraine. I mean, we've had missiles provided by us being used on Russian territory already. We know the only thing that Putin's going to respond to is basically the reality that you're going to lose.
Yeah, look, the Tomahawks are different. They have a range of up to, I think, 1,500 miles. What we have given them, Storm Shadow, is about 200 miles.
Yeah.
They are particularly stealthy, i.e. they're hard to shoot down. And I've been told by a military friend of mine that they can be put through a bathroom window at a range of 1,000, 1,500 miles. They are incredibly accurate. They probably wouldn't be a game changer in themselves, but Putin was clearly very, very concerned about this.
Yeah. So, Zelensky of intent.
Yeah, Zelensky came out the other day and he said, when Tomahawks are taken off the table, then Putin loses interest in diplomacy. When the Tomahawks were on the table and it looked like Trump was going to give Tomahawks, suddenly Putin wanted to talk. Okay. Trump has rolled back on that. He hasn't said no, but he's rolled back on it. So Putin becomes more maximalist. Yeah. As you said, when are we going to learn?
Yeah, and once again, we've got the European nations in NATO very strongly backing Zelensky. We've got, the NATO racing over to Washington to try and sort of basically, talk about the 12-point peace plan that they've got. But I mean, Zelensky is compromised. I mean, to even have to give away an inch of territory is a massive compromise. Anything, by the way, would have to go to a vote of the Ukrainian people. I think after 3.5 years of vicious warfare and so many of their young men dead, and indeed their civilians who've been targeted as well, I can't imagine they're like, we would go, yeah, all right then, we'll give it all up now. Where do we go from here?
Well, look, I believe where, and you know, this is horrible. This is realpolitik, but I believe where Zelensky probably is, and even if it went to a vote, the Ukrainian people might be there, would be freezing the conflict along the current lines. This is what Putin absolutely refuses to do. That would be a de facto recognition of the lines of the lines of demarcation. It would never be a de jure. Ukraine will never recognize de jure that these 5 oblasts, remember this Crimea that was illegally taken in 2014, and this is existential for Crimea. So, but I think, you know, the place that they are in at the moment is that they could, and I would say possibly would accept a de jure freezing on the current lines. But then it's all about the security guarantees.
Which the US...
It's about how we get behind them and we turn Ukraine into a steel hedgehog. And also what is left, the 80% of Ukraine that's left, if we look at what happened with West Germany after that was divided in 1945, with the support of the West Germany became one of the world's economic powerhouses. And with the social capital and the resources that they have in and under their black soil, Ukraine is a sleeping giant.
Exactly, and a huge nation. It could be a huge asset, joining the EU and all of that. Yeah, Cormac, really good to talk to you. A former advisor to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I'd love to